Rite TV. We have a family therapist in the house, Mrs. Evas Atwiine. She has been here, and we had a session where she talked about the family system. Purpose of family, importance of family. A family is that place where we are raised. It can either make us or break us. It's our anchor. It's where we are found. And then we went on to understand from our therapist that family is actually a family system. And she mentioned 4 parts of a family system: the spousal subsystem, the parental subsystem, the sibling subsystem, and the relatives and workers subsystem. The example she gave actually was the digestive system, and she said, think about your mouth, your food pipe, your stomach, the intestines, the juices, the enzymes, the functionality of eventually a human being eating and getting the benefits out of food. So family should be functioning well. However, in her experience as a family therapist and as a coach, there's been a lot of brokenness in our families. And when we broke off, she had just pointed out that in the past, we've put a lot of effort in the girl child. We tell the girl so many things. At every turn in the house, she's being taught something. Handle the sink this way, handle the finances this way, handle the cleanliness this way, speak to people like this. So the girls are turning out a little stronger than the boys. She also says, and this one I must say it again, she also said that anything that has 2 heads is a monster. So we are not looking at creating families with 2 heads. Our preference is that we'll have families with 1 head. And then she also talked about leadership, the divine leadership concept as coming from God. We are ready to move into the next session because when we broke off, we had just actually heard from her that the boy has been raised a little neglected, a little. But we want to look at this young man, maybe right from 5 years, 10, 20, 30, when he brings in a wife, when he becomes a father. Auntie Evas, the young men, where do we start? I'm even wondering where to start.
Okay, so in relationship coaching, we and in life coaching generally, we believe that it's never too late to do the right thing.
Hallelujah. That's a very strong statement. You can say it again.
Yeah, it's never too late to do the right thing.
Wow.
And I mean, again, as a therapist, I meet people panicking. What can I do? I've already lost it. No. And it's even scripture.
Wow.
God promises to give us double for the years eaten by locusts.
Wow.
You see?
Talk about
so
it.
I just want to cushion my conversation on that. Because if we spend more time panicking, we're going to lose more. But if we settle down and say, where did we go wrong? And what do we need to do right? I think that's the most redeeming part that we need to focus on.
The redemption bit, yeah.
Okay, so where have we gone wrong? Where we've gone wrong is we have settled in a place where we expect leadership from people we haven't trained. And we have
self-defeating.
Yes. And so we have told our boys and men, you know, I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can be
see
here.
it.
But you see, going back to how society was, it was very organized. It was very clear. It was very compartmentalized. It was very clear on what role a man was supposed to do in a family and what role a woman was supposed to do in a family. And so moms, we were, or ladies, wives, we were in a family to care, to nurture, to do homemaking. And I want to tell you, these are still our roles. You see that? This hasn't changed. And if I could explain this from psychology, from psychology, we realize that actually the way the women's brains are made, we deal with detail. Yeah, we get into detail and we are very multitasking. This is not something that we have just learned. No, it's within our brain wiring.
It's in it.
You see? So the way God made us, there are certain things that we gravitate towards certain areas. We care, we nurture trust in children, we nurture compassion, we nurture the soft part of a human being. And so I want to say this and emphasize it because I've met women who are saying, can't I also do this? Can't I? It's okay. And some of them are burdened by that. But this is something God created us to do.
He gave it to us
And
with two hands.
and it's perfect. You
Yeah.
see?
Yeah.
Now, even when a woman is in leadership, they are still, you'll see they gravitate towards certain areas. You see? So it doesn't mean that you neglect our God-given ordained role in there. But then the boys, the men were into provision, were into protection, were into survival, were into this whole leadership concept.
Shelter.
You see?
Shelter.
They were sheltering the family. And so it has been, it survived for a long time. And it's very, very important. Now, this hasn't changed, but you see things have changed. So the environment has changed. We no longer have the joy of that beautiful compartmentalization where a man provides, a woman stays home. We all know what happened after World War when women invaded the workplace, invaded industries and started working. And things have changed and it can only get worse. So women, we have gone to the workplace, and this is not something to lament over, and honestly, why? What? Because now women are earning, they're into provision. Some families are dependent on the income that comes from women, from wives and women, and we are into so many things. I know a couple where, which works with the army, and the wife is at a higher rank, and the husband has to salute her. You see that? Now, so do you see how everything has gone a certain direction? Now, the challenge we've had, I still remember that question I'm answering. The challenge we've had is that we haven't prepared our boys for the changing times. And we have still kept them in that old place of you're the boss, you're the what, but you see the compartments down are not supporting what you're telling them. You see? So what happens to the boy and their leadership in a family where the income is earned by the wife? What happens to this boy who lives in a family, in a marriage, where the house they are living in, actually resources came through? And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to emphasize it. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens? How do they behave? How do they maintain the leadership position in the midst of all these changing and fluid situations? You see? What happens to this boy's leadership or this man's leadership whose wife is a minister and speaker of parliament and so many things? Like, how do they relate with them and still maintain their leadership posture?
And maintain the family system.
How do they keep stable? What happens to this man in a family, you know, in a family where things no longer fit in the old compartments? How can they still? So the concept of their leadership is still there, but we haven't nurtured them to keep in step with the changing times. You see, how do they? You've heard me say, how have we prepared our boys to sleep in the same bed as their wives who are ministers, CEOs, and still maintain the marriages?
I hadn't even thought about that.
Do you understand?
Very brilliant
So,
thoughts.
what exactly? So, I want to emphasize the issue, number one, of the traditional leadership aspects of providing strategic leadership, of a vision for the family, of being a priest in the home, and all this. Like, these haven't changed. These expectations haven't changed. But how have we prepared our boys in these changing times to be able to maintain this? How do they keep their self-confidence and still feel a man of a wife who earns 10 times more than them? Do you understand? So have we really nurtured the relational skills, or have we kept them in the lie of you're the boss? So they go like, I'm the boss. If you disturb me, I'll fire you from my home.
I'll beat you up.
You see that? So that's, and I'm speaking as a marriage therapist and a family therapist, and I know what is happening, because that's where conflicts are coming from. So what's happening? We have a disempowered man, very disempowered, very deflated, low self-esteem. They have no confidence because they're saying, they're very paranoid. Some of them are very paranoid, and this is not for everyone, please. But some of them are extremely paranoid because they're saying, this woman, really, can they still respect me? Of course, also, there's something happening to women as well. I'll be honest that both men and women are confused. Some women can't fit in their skin because they earn a certain amount, which is very sad. They've contributed, or they've built homes or whatever. But you see, ultimately, we are going back to what I started with. This family relationship is very important.
That system
It's very important that it should never be substituted with anything else, with money and all the things you're thinking about. So I was talking about, how have we prepared our boys? So we have deflated, very disempowered, very scared, very insecure, very. So this is real. This is
I
happening.
feel it. I live in the real world. I work with young people. Everything you're saying, I see it every day.
Some of the boys are actually totally scared. They're saying, how can I marry this girl? These ones. And to be honest with you, yes, some women, some young girls, some young women are out of their skins, but some of them are innocent. They are innocently waiting to connect with a confident man. And I want to speak to boys and young men who are listening.
And that's where I'm going. She has said it's never too late to put things right. As a coach, she has experience in that. Auntie Evas, continue there.
So I want to speak to boys and say, please don't just carry this negative energy to the relationship and you're so paranoid. If you're scared, if you have fears, that's why therapists are there to help you. Speak to someone and share your fears. Whenever those who have interacted with me, I always ask, what are you scared of? They say, these women, this gender. And I say, no, just calm down. Calm down. Approach it with faith, approach it with confidence. Just to know that a woman or man, we are all a broken people. And so if you see weaknesses, don't take it like they are against you. No. But let's build the confidence of our boys. So let me give you a few quick tips.
I wouldn't like to call them tips. In coaching, when you notice, you probably feel you're not at the level you'd want to operate at. These girls, this generation of girls has strong girls. They've done the books. They actually do the studies anywhere in the world, so they're really trained, polished. They actually get hired. They have a consistency at work, so it's easy for girls to rise up even in the career. I don't want you to look at what she's going to say as just tips. Look at it as a starting point.
Yeah.
Eventually, I would encourage all our listeners to find a therapist near them. We will even give you Mrs. Atwiine's contact at some point so that you can actually begin conversations to better yourself. After all, it's never too late to put things right. So, Auntie Evas.
Okay, so let me just begin.
And for our ears, me, the mother, the father, and the boy we are raising. And
That's
the boy
right.
who's already in a young marriage.
That's right.
But he's wondering,
Right.
are we okay? What do we do?
Right. So I'll begin from that and tell listeners or viewers that a disempowered person is a very timid person. And this empowerment is about skills for life management. Every time we look at something and we feel, I can't manage that, what happens? Our esteem is eroded. So this is what is happening to our boys. And I want to emphasize the starting point. I'm going to say it with a story from my own personal life. Those who know me know that I have 4 biological daughters and then 1 boy. Now this boy came later, way later, and I'll not say details here, but he came way later.
It's all right.
And so I have 26-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. You see, so
which is okay.
very interesting. But the bit about it, what I wanted to pick from there is that when I got this boy, every person came saying, you're going to spoil, not everyone, but most people, they were like, oh, you're going to spoil him, you're going to spoil, and it would really create certain feelings about him. People say, spoil him?
Why would I bring a child to spoil?
Why would I bring a child to this world to spoil them? And actually, but it communicated so much, the attitude that we have. Because we nurture girls, we spoil boys. We nurture, we spoil. Now, any person spoiled, that's a negative connotation.
Very.
Any spoiled person is not great.
Certainly.
Now, what is happening is that young boys lack basic relational skills. And I want to tell you, life is about relationships. Relationships at work, that's why some of them, they get into the workplace, the first challenge they get, they resign. They just resign. They say, you're not my father. Because they knew the things you're telling them, some of them can't submit to authority. Submission to authority, that's humility. So they lack the basic character traits. They lack humility, they don't know how to listen, and this is actually manifesting in marriage relationships, but also in other relationships. They can't listen. You see, a good leader listens. They have no listening skills, they have no communication skill at all. They can't speak up. That's why most of them are battered in marriages. You see, I have a very big burden for men in marriages. Some of them are battered by women and they can't speak up. They have no one to speak to. They can't do what we call emotional cleansing at all. You see, they can't speak up. They don't know all these other things. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to love. All they know is to give money.
Sounds
basic,
but it is very.
You see that? You see that? I just remember a client I was speaking to, and the lady, and she said, you know, I've told my husband this is my love language. I speak to the husband, and he says, what is that? And I already told you that something we miss here.
I'm sorry for laughing.
You see that? And so love, if you talk to ladies, they are complaining about love has to be expressed to be love. So what have we told boys? Be a man. You know, be a man. Those things are for women. And so they can't be expressive. And things that are killing their marriage relationships or their families are so basic. Very basic. It's about how you validate your wife. It's about how you talk to your children, you know, in a very nice way, express love, hug your child, hug your wife, simple little things that keep a family together. But what have they been told? Those things are for, those are too little things. Just focus on provide. And so they don't know.
From raising a son, or there's a son being raised, how can I bring out these soft skills in the boy? How can I raise him with a tender heart? How can I raise him to speak a little more? Those things.
Yeah. So start where you are.
Yes.
Right? And why we are laboring to talk about this is that it has to be valued. You have to understand its importance.
Yes.
So tell the boys. I was talking to my son last evening, who is being bullied by some girl in class, and I said, speak up. Speak up. And he said, I told her, but she just keeps disrupting me. And I said, tell her, you're not going to tolerate that. And you say, if you continue doing this, I'm going to do this. So you're teaching him to be assertive. So we need to teach our boys healthy assertiveness. You see, that's why most boys, when they are angry, they fight. They get violent. That's why we have so much domestic violence. They don't know how to talk, they don't know how to listen, they don't know how to assert themselves, they don't know how to define boundaries. They are being messed up. So let's start by, this is how you do it. When he's talking and he can't listen, tell him, listen. Okay, this is how they listen. You listen with your eyes, listen with your ears, and you listen with your heart. Just listen. And if you have a temptation to talk, just hold back and listen. Listen. That's when you will understand. But now we have told them, you are a man, someone can talk and you just walk away. You see that? You suffocate, you suppress because you are a man. I'm the man in this home, I'm the dad, don't you know? That's what we have. And boys are failing. Now, a good leader listens, and listens with compassion, listens with curiosity. Now, when they do that, we are nurturing them to be a good man. And then, of course, certain behaviors that they need to display as a leader. Authenticity. When you do things, display authenticity. Don't just be lousy so that later on you just blame it on your wife. Or, you know, and you know, some of them love scripture. They go to Proverbs 14. A good woman builds a home and breaks it down. But what are you doing? Let's teach them accountability. You see, can I talk about accountability for once? A leader, a good leader, a good family leader is going to be accountable. What's happening? We have told the boys, you can do anything you want, and come home anytime. Your wife is not supposed to call you. In fact, when your wife comes at 4, just come out, serve them food, sit and watch how they eat, and then, you see that? And what have they? Now, I always ask people, so at 4 a.m., what meal are you eating? Is it early breakfast? Is it tomorrow's lunch? Or is it yesterday's dinner? You know, and we have nurtured that. You see? We have, you know, this is a leader. Now, whenever we are giving those messages, unfortunately, even in church, we focus on the woman. You, Mega, but now we are not challenging our boys to take on this accountability role as a leader, because we forget that when he comes in at 4, there is paternal deprivation of children, there is family confusion, where is your institution if you're just showing up at 4 a.m.? You see, so those are some of the things that...
And Mrs. Atwiine, you've said many things, but there's one particular one you may even not have noticed when you were saying it, but I took note of it, and I want to bring it up more as we even, you know, look for a way of wrapping it up. Mothers out there, fathers, and those of us who are carers for children, she mentioned that the young man comes home and the mom gets to know he's being bullied by a girl in class. Ask yourself a question. How was she able to even find out that was happening? And that is the ministry of presence. Mrs. Atwiine, I want you to emphasize on that. We will not catch it when we are entering the house at 3 a.m.
Thank you. Yeah.
We will not catch it when we are seated at the bar the entire evening as the children go to bed. There, me the nurturer, me the mother, the father's presence. When do we get these? Those small conversations. Because even the girl, we've been capturing the girl when she's mopping. Do it again. When she's cleaning the bathroom, all the tiles are not clean. When she's serving food, that is not appropriate. So those moments of being in contact with a young man seem to be important.
Extremely so. Of course, again,
instead of bringing big toys, and instead of...
So leave the toys alone. So the whole issue is, do you know your child and do you know what they are going through? do you interact with them? Or are you up there fighting, I'm not coming home, I'm there, don't call me, and some of those things. You see, that's what I've been talking about as encouraging boys and our sons to live single in marriage. Because they are thriving on this whole, I'm the boss, it's my home, and all that. Now that's okay. But you see, there is a difference between a boss and a leader. Now, a leader who doesn't know their people is a problem.
They will not lead them.
And a leader, as a dad, who does not connect with their children, they have no idea, they've lost out on the sense of authority. Right? This is a unique contribution dads bring to, unique leadership contribution dads bring to the lives of children, but also in the entire family. So, if you don't know, if you don't interact with the children, how are you going to know their lives? And I've met dads who are, I mean, this happens with all of us parents, but most of the time dads, when they are told your son is gay or your son is on drugs and they are taking, like they started when they were in senior 3 or P7 and now the child is in university, they go like, how? And they say, how can you ashame our family
our home.
and in our home? But you see, do you even know what is going on in the life of this child? Do you know their struggles? Do you know their stresses? Do you know their triggers? Do you know their difficulties? Do you know their worries and anxieties? Do you have an idea? How long do you interact? You work every day, you come home past midnight. You leave when they're sleeping, you come when they're sleeping. You only appear over the weekend and you just take them swimming and you just watch. And most of the time we do that bribery. But you see, the question is, do you know your child? So, as we prepare these boys, do we know them? Do we know their fears? Do we know when someone crosses their boundaries? Do we have an idea what their anxieties are and their areas for improvement?
Those small moments. By 10 years, a mother is having a conversation with a son. So the conversation will continue at 14, the conversations will continue at 18, the conversations will continue when they're at university. We don't just jump in. I take us back to the statement she made. In therapy and in coaching, the belief is it is never too late to put things right. This is going to be a series. Today we have touched on the leadership of the boy child, raising leaders in the children. We have the boys especially to take their positions. And Mrs. Atwiine has laid a very good foundation. I just want her to give us parting shots as we begin to think about having these small conversations with the young men and beginning to get into their lives so that we are not shocked 10 years later that the child needs to go to rehab. What would be your parting shots for today?
So my parting shots, I'll just go back to it's never too late to do the right thing. Instead of spending time panicking and worrying, let's identify what we need to do. And in doing that, let's identify what help points are there. If you need to meet with a therapist, come. And if you're stranded, come and talk to therapists. We are able to do psychoanalysis to know where your child is and be able to support you. If you need some skills in communicating with your child and pulling out all these, calling out their God-given gifts, come talk to us. We have life coaches, we have child psychologists. If your child is struggling because of probably your parenting style and all, very, very important. So, and also to encourage parents, please be curious to learn about parenting. Parenting is a skill. It's not just something, it's much easier to be a mom and a dad than a parent.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Atwiine. This is Rite TV. The way we've wrapped up, I realize when Mrs. Atwiine comes back, we are going to go back to the family system and strengthen it a little more. Maybe we need to do a little more work at the spousal level, at the spousal subsystem, so that we will strengthen the parental subsystem, and hopefully the sibling subsystem will get stronger. Thank you so much, Mrs. Atwiine. We appreciate Mrs. Atwiine for having given us her time today. And like I said, I think we need to invite her back, and we need to start from the family system once again. How do we strengthen the spousal subsystem so that it can create a stronger parental subsystem, from which we will have a stronger sibling subsystem, and eventually the other people will come in and find us a functional team. But we really appreciate Mrs. Evas, and she's a family therapist, she's a coach. Her contact will be displayed on the screen. And thank you so much once again for viewing Rite TV.